I'm going to show you why many of the main beliefs in the two-stroke world are false. Probably the biggest one, even though it was shot down by Gordon Jennings decades ago, is reading the spark plug. You can't read the spark plug to tell you what the main jet is. It's impossible. Look at this test I did with 3 different main jets. Exact same test. Do you see much color change there? No. Maybe an infinitesimal amount. That's all. Someone sent me this picture. He did used different main jets in his, and he cut the threads off of the plugs, and basically the bands look the same. Neither one of those is a way to pick a specific main jet. You do that by riding the bike. If you ride mostly on straight flat ground, you just maxed out, okay, well, that's called low load situation, and you would jet a little bit leaner than you would with a high load situation. High load would be going uphill, going through sand, going through mud, a tight course where you're always decelerating and accelerating. That would be a richer jetting, okay? Based upon what your typical riding is, you try different jets and find out which ones work right. That's the correct way to select a main jet. You can't go by the plug, period. Then there's the jetting charts. Mikuni and some others made some overly simplistic jetting charts, probably because they think we're just a bunch of crazy idiots out there getting drunk and crashing our brains out, and that we can't handle any complex ideas. So this right here is an example of the oversimplified jetting charts they made for us. Thank you, Mikuni. This jetting chart right here is much more realistic, and it's the result of getting values from my jetting calculator. So you can see the main jet has an effect all the way down to idle. It might just be a very small percentage, but it's there. The idle jet has an effect all the way up to wide open throttle. Very small percentage, but it's there. The needle jet clearance is something that no one talks about, and I don't know why. Look at that. It has a huge influence at the beginning. Okay? That's the clearance between the needle and the hole it slides into, which I'm calling the needle jet. Yeah, on Mikuni's, the needles are all the same widths, and there's different needle jet hole diameters that you can choose from. And it's the opposite with Keyhine. I think you have different diameter needles to select on Del Orto, as well as different diameters of needle jets. But this is very important. And a big clue on that is your idle setting. What idle jet you're using, the air screw. What happens on old carbs is that needle jet gets wallowed out by the needle vibrating inside of it. And so that hole becomes bigger, and that clearance becomes bigger. And so you got too much fuel coming in, and so you have to use a smaller idle jet to compensate. And then on new setups, maybe you bought a carb for a certain engine you're building. Maybe what it came with was too little clearance. Okay? In that case, to get this area right, you'd have to have a much bigger idle jet. Okay? So this and the idle jet counterbalance each other at idle, and well, just above idle. Then there's the fuel-oil ratio. Some people think 32:1 is a perfect ratio for all bikes, for all oils, and it's just all completely not true. And I'm going to tell you why. It depends upon engine heat, because if the oil type is not heat resistant enough and you're using it in a race bike and the cylinder's getting really hot, that oil is going to flash off of the cylinder, leaving it unprotected. So it depends upon the type of riding, which correlates directly to type of or level of engine heat, and the viscosity of the engine oil. The high viscosity oils also have high heat resistance, which is the casters and the synthetics. Okay, the low viscosity splits on the heat resistance. The group 2 mineral oils have good heat resistance. The group 1 mineral oils do not have good heat resistance. And I try to stay away from all oils that have very much of group 1 mineral oil in it. If you want the details down to the percentage of what's in each one, look at this website right here. This is my web page on the subject. Do not go by what they say about it. They lie like a motherfucker. They say it's 100% synthetic. They say it's full synthetic. You look it up on their own safety data sheets, and then you look up the CAS numbers that they list, and you're like, oh my gosh, there's like 50% mineral oil in here. Anyway, I've done all the homework for you, and it's all right on this side right here. Thank you. You're welcome. 1 1/2 turns out of the air screw on the carburetor is not the perfect setting. Whatever it takes to get the bike to run good at low RPM, just off of idle and at idle, is good. Okay. Generally speaking, the acceptable range is 1 to 2 turns out. So I don't want you to think that if it's 2 turns out, even though it idles good, starts good, off idle runs good, that there's something wrong with it. No. Anywhere in between 1 and 2 is okay if it runs okay. Does carburetor size restrict top RPM engine power because of restriction and airflow? I would say to a lesser degree, yes. To a major degree, it's because the different size of the carburetor affects the air velocity, which affects the fuel droplet size. Okay, there's an ideal range of fuel droplet size. You don't want them to be too small, or you don't want them to be too large. Okay, there's actually, like, you can consider like there's 3 groupings of fuel droplet size. I'm not going to go through the whole thing. I've got a video on it. Please look that up. It's a very interesting topic. And yeah, so carburetor size affects engine power mostly because of the different air velocity. The smaller the carb, the higher velocity, the smaller the fuel droplets. Balance factor definitely is not a method for finding out what balance is needed. It's a way to telling someone else what you did to your crank for them to try to duplicate your efforts if they have the same engine. It's not an investigative method. It won't tell you. You have to guess at the balance factor. Try different ones till you find one that works. It's very brutal. It's very Neanderthal. So would you rather be guessing at what balance factor to use, or would you rather use a modern day computerized program that can calculate the forces on the crank every 15 degrees and give you a graph and help you understand the graph so you know what changes to make in the holes, which right here's the data for the holes? The choice is yours. These programs are not hard to use. You open them up, you see the cells that are in light blue color. That's the data that you are required to enter in. And this one has quite a few cells. The crank balance calculator is one of the more detailed ones for getting all the measurements right, because when you're spinning everything at 10,000 RPM, every little gram counts. Okay, so that's about it for that subject. Some people think that the industry switched to reed valves because they make the engines faster. People that say that have zero experience with piston ports. You play with the intake duration, you can make a piston port engine very fast. So no, it's reed valves give you a broader range of power. That's the main thing, and they also give you more reliable starting and more reliable idling. Next myth is the engine size. When motorcycles started out, they were all 4-strokes, and they sized the 4-stroke engine by the volume that is swept by the piston from BDC to TDC. And then when 2-strokes came along, guess what? They didn't change the damn formula. Yeah. Even though what's burned in a 2-stroke is what's trapped above the exhaust port. Granted, if you have an expansion chamber, you're able to stuff a little bit more in there, okay? But, you know, whether you run the bike with a straight pipe, with a normal expansion chamber, or like an expansion chamber which I use, which is super, super excellent for the street, which is one with a Holy baffle. Look it up on my website. You have varying degrees of stuffing or zero stuffing. So the only reliable thing you can go by is the volume that's above the exhaust port, which includes the head volume, which wasn't included in the 4-stroke formula. Yeah, I'm a perfectionist. Okay, so shoot me. Thanks for watching. It's been fun. It's been real, but I don't know. Has it been real fun?